So Jamal, you're on.
You, Howard. That was such a powerful statement. Um, Again, my name is Jamal Moss. I'm the chair of the Health and Environmental Justice Subcommittee. And today I would like to speak with you all on three topics: community engagement and equity, the health and well-being of our community, and the impact of the environment and built community on our health. Community engagement is essential to ensure that those who have historically been marginalized and exploited are included in planning for the future of Durham. It is why we recommend the allocation of funds to include more voices from Black, Indigenous, and people of color, youth groups, the LGBTQIA+, and disabled citizens in county discussions and decision making. Their input is important in operationalizing programs, incentives, initiatives, and policies that are inclusive of marginalized communities to prevent harm and trauma. This includes valuing and validating each person's individual experience as unique and resulting from systemic inequities and pressures while supporting their need with assistance and next steps. We recommend the county utilize a community-rooted approach to engagement, a method that Communities in Partnership, a nonprofit organization in Durham, describes as an understanding that people are the expert of their own lived experience and are more than capable to make decisions about matters that involve their community. This method includes providing funds and resources for community members involved in county-related boards, commissions, and other activities to compensate them for their time and knowledge. In regards to health and well-being of our community, the county plays a big role in managing the health and wellness of community members through the Durham County Department of Public Health. And for this reason, we recommend that the Board of County Commissions support and fund racial equity policies, strategies, protocols, and initiatives from the Durham County Department of Public Health. This can include, but not limited to, funding and supporting initiatives that ensure access to health services, nutritional sufficiency, education resources on good health, and behavioral changes with community health support groups. We recommend that the county and the city create a city-county health alliance with the objective of integrating health outcomes into city and county planning decisions and comprehensive plans. This alliance should include members from Black, Indigenous, Latinx, and other communities of color. This alliance should also prioritize creating county-city plans for pandemics, national crises, and natural disasters that ensure protections for the most vulnerable. We recommend expanding the county health or the community health workers model and train community members as outreach workers, providing culturally relevant education, resources, and information to communities with the greatest disparities. We recommend the Board of County Commissioners fund training for all county first responders and emergency services annually in racial equity practices that focus on trauma-informed perspectives and practices for better customer service and outcomes. During the time of COVID-19, we recommend the county develop protocols to be more transparent about COVID cases in the county jail, along with other serious health concerns and outbreaks, and be explicit about how that information will be communicated with inmates' families and the community. We recommend the county ensure more transparency on the procedures that are employed during national crises, such as COVID-19 in the county jail. And in addition, we encourage the county to ensure that the voices, experiences, and needs of those incarcerated can be heard and supported without inhibition and fear of repercussion or retaliation. Last, our built environment plays a large role in health outcomes and life expectancy. With that known, we recommend the county create a policy structure supported with funding that will put the control of power back into the hands of the community members for decisions regarding land use, community character and design, conservation and environment, transportation, water and watershed, parks and recreation, public safety, capital improvement, and libraries. invest in equitable ways of interaction and engagement that ensure community members can fully participate in discussions and urban design decision-making. And last, we recommend the county ensure that the quality of water, air, soil, and general environment meets the highest standard in every zip code. Commit funds to guarantee underserved neighborhoods heal from natural disasters, environmental concerns like fallen trees, and environmental pollutants such as lead paint and cement dust. Resources and funds should be prioritized to Black, Indigenous, Latinx, and other communities that have historically been excluded and marginalized. Thank you all for your time, and now I believe I will pass it to Judy. Okay.
Thanks, Jamal. So I'm Katie Umgongola, Chair of the Education Subcommittee. Thank you for taking the time to meet with us tonight. We really appreciate it. You spoke earlier tonight about the power of working across systems, and that definitely applies in education. We view these recommendations as Karin said earlier, an urgent and loving invitation, and we hope you feel the same. But first, the education recommendations request that the county help fund universal quality pre-K to all families, which should also include transportation and before and after care. Pre-K should be available in every elementary school, and we hope future budgeting and policy incorporates that. As we shared with the Board of Education, it's critical that pre-K is seen as part of DPS. Rhetoric is important in dictating who feels a sense of belonging, and beyond that, it has resource implications, like with virtual schooling. We hope that you take pre-K seriously as a racial justice issue. As the National Institute for Early Education Research has stated, 1 year of quality pre-K can almost eliminate the opportunity gap present at kindergarten entry, which is a barrier that's really difficult to overcome once it is established. Another recommendation that we have is centered on the urgency of disrupting the school to prison pipeline. We believe that achieving equitable schools will require us to create a community-informed solution to policing in our schools. We believe this solution will be based on best practices, according to research and experts, but also the lived experiences of students and community conversations. We know that directly impacted students have worked really hard over the last year and even beyond to make a change around school policing, but oftentimes did not feel heard. So we really emphasize centering their voices and expertise. One way we suggested to the Board of Education is to create a seat for the students on the board. We encourage you to also meaningfully engage with students so that they are seen and heard in similar powerful ways. As the saying goes, the closest to the pain should be closest to the power, and that does include young people. Jamal spoke earlier about trauma and health, and it has never been more critical for schools to have appropriate funding for school nurses, social workers, and counselors. The school nurse has a crucial role in particular in reopening schools, and every school needs one full-time nurse who can help work to keep the school community healthy and informed while playing a key role in broader planning. We say this because in the middle of a pandemic, 27 SROs were budgeted this summer in the county budget, when there is an existing shortage of nurses, not to mention counselors and social workers. We ask that this resource allocation be reconsidered in the next budget cycle, when we will still be facing the trauma of the pandemic. Please consider shifting funds from the 27 SROs to ensure that all schools have a full-time nurse. We are going to need trauma-informed schools more than ever, which means appropriate numbers of school counselors and social workers who can address the really real mental health needs of students. Hearing the conversation earlier tonight on ACE's work and your commitment to being trauma-informed is really encouraging, especially because these are significant financial investments, to be sure. But these are important resource allocations, and we urge you as the budget makers to take bold measures to serve children who are at even greater risk of entering the school to prison pipeline in the aftermath of the pandemic. These children include students of color, students with disabilities, students in foster care, students in juvenile justice system, and like Howie emphasized earlier, students who are homeless. Without the investment in culturally responsive nurses, counselors, and social workers helping to make schools trauma-informed, we have a really serious situation, and school policing could have dire consequences for our most vulnerable students. Like Judge O'Neill said earlier, we love our city, we want different outcomes. And so we ask that you, as funders of the Sheriff's Department, use your power for harm reduction. For example, we recommend institutionalizing the policy where SROs do not have a role in channeling people into the criminal legal system, investing in interventions that prevent student interactions with the school to prison pipeline. And this might include hiring additional people for the equity department, training on recognizing trauma, de-escalation training, community healing practices. We bring this to you because it may require support in the form of resources from the county. Our report also lists important recommendations around the Memorandum of Understanding between the Sheriff's Department and DPS for SROs. We hope for your support in improving transparency while creating the memorandum, operationalizing accountability, prioritizing stakeholder input, which includes families and students, and initiating oversight. MOU should be available online through the County Commission, as well as DPS, School Board, and the Sheriff's Office. And we hope it'll be available in multiple languages, including Spanish. Finally, we request that the county increase funding and support for the skills, trade, and work-based learning programs, including the Waymakers at Southern High School and the Work-Based Learning 321 program. We request that the county increase funding and support for alternative education programs that offer high school equivalency options for all in Durham, including those in the Durham County Jail. And we recommend that the county invest in preventative measures to ensure students are not pushed out of school. The county should work closely with the communities, centering student voices, experiences, and proposals for solutions. At the end of the day, we know that y'all have limitations, that these asks cannot happen overnight, that you cannot tell the school board or the sheriff what to even do with the funding, but we hope that you will use your significant influence to push for racial justice. And with that, I'll pass it to Vanessa Hines, who will share recommendations about public education. Thank you.
Thank you, Katie, and good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us here tonight. I'm just putting up my presentation. Like Katie said, my name is Vanessa Hines, and I was the chair of public history, the public history subcommittee. The public history subcommittee consisted of myself, Tia Hall, and our vice chair, or co-chair, Karen Haldeman. The public history subcommittee has sought to help the County of Durham tell a more full version of our county's history in our public spaces. We believe this to be a service to both the newcomer and the longtime resident, to know the history about the place one lives, both the hard truths and the unique characteristics worth celebrating. We believe it is important to know the stories of those who came before, and to ponder how one might fit into the wider story of Durham. Public history and public art help us know who is welcome in the county and whose story the county thinks is worth telling. For the sake of future generations, we must find a way to uplift the stories that have often gone unheard. We desire to live in a county where everyone can find themselves celebrated through the story of one who came before them. We are grateful that the city has put forth a plan to begin the Storytelling and Story Gathering Commission, which is an effort that will help us continue to gather stories and allow us to brainstorm new ways to tell these stories. We are hoping that the county can join together in that effort. I'm thinking especially of the history department at NCCU. The public history department is doing some incredible work gathering the oral histories of Black Durham from historically Black neighborhoods like Bragtown. The county can fund the university's efforts to expand their work because we believe that would be a great gift to the County of Durham. There are many other groups to be included in this gathering of stories, especially from our Latinx communities, our Asian communities, and our Native and Indigenous communities. In order for us to be a truly racially equitable county, we need to uplift the stories of those who have been intentionally left out of the narrative. We also think that the county can help tell a more full version of its history by funding a full-fledged Museum of Durham history with enough resources to offer a plethora of outdoor exhibits to help bring the stories of Durham out of the building and into the streets. We need more monuments to people in our city who have inspired us to seek justice, especially for our most vulnerable. We need more memorials to call us to lament our city and county's shortcomings. We need more murals to help us remember where we have been and inspire us to imagine where we can go. And of course, we need more community engagement surrounding all of these. These projects should prioritize the hiring of Black, Indigenous, and people of color artists for the design and implementation, and they should include information about the artists and the history of the project. We are grateful for the work currently being done by the city to create the Black Wall Street Gardens, and we are also grateful for the work that was done by the City County Commission on Confederate monuments for their list of who is missing from our public square, and to the Sesquicentennial Commission for their list of Durham honorees. Time is of the essence to find places to honor these people and to share more of Durham's history, and to continue bringing the stories of Durham out of the buildings and into the street. As the artist and activist Fabiana Rodriguez says, the role of the artist has never been more important. Artists are the beacons who help us see the light in times of devastation. Artists expose hard truths, inspire new ideas, and make the future that we want feel possible, tangible, and inevitable. Artists activate the imagination, they soothe, they comfort, and they move us to action. Let's imagine together what Durham County could look like if we exposed the hard truths through the intertwining of public history and public art. May we be a county that doesn't shy away from the hard truths, but reflects on them often, so that we may heal and in turn create a more whole and equitable county for generations to come. That's all for me, and I'm going to kick it back over to Karin. Thank you.
Thank you,
If I may.
Oh, go ahead, James.
If I may. Vanessa, following you and those who have preceded you are always good persons to lead me, so I appreciate your comments as well. I know that we all know that racism is still a big problem in our community. And Commissioner Jacobs, reflective of sentiments of the other commissioners, you made the comment earlier when we were listening to the presentation by the Sheriff's Department that having systems, policies, and procedures in place are just such an integral part of us doing almost anything. But to add to that commitment and desire to really want to make better things happen is just so key. If you will allow me just to share a quote with you, which really did resonate with me, and that quote is as follows: "I shall pass this way but once. Any good, therefore, I can do for others, anything that I can show other individuals can only make this world better. Let me not defer or neglect what I can do, for I shall not pass this way again." That was by an 18th century French missionary, and that was just such a meaningful statement that he had made. When it comes to the thoughtful, fair, equitable treatment of all citizens who should be called upon but us to try to help make a difference in the lives of others, because as others do better, we all in Durham do better as well. The recommendations which have been shared with you were not conceived in a dark, dank, back room. We reached out, we endeavored to collaborate with a lot of individuals throughout Durham, to listen to them, and not just go in with the desire to plan for or to come up with ideas for, but to plan with and to in fact listen. And that represents the essence of many of the recommendations that you've heard. We stand here at a pivotal point regarding what we can do to help stem the adverse effects of systemic racism and racial inequity. The task force, again, is most aware of the demands, expectations, and challenges which confront county government. Speaking just for myself, I've always been inclined to say it takes a better person than me to do what you all are doing. And we're just glad to have this level of commitment from you all. But the awareness that we can do more in terms of collaboration prompts us all to seek these kind of meetings and convey to you how gratified we are to be able to share, to listen, and to learn. One of my most gratifying experiences since being in Durham is to be able to serve with a group of people who make up this task force. Not only having a chance to be heard, but to have a chance to listen and to learn as well. And that is a very meaningful opportunity for me. It is the diversity of our collective thoughts, not just from the task force perspective, but from entities like the Board of Commissioners, in terms of our overall desire to want to do good, to be good, and to practice the golden rule, because as simple as that may sound, that's how our efforts are geared. We recognize that questions still remain, things you still need to give thought to, funding proposals that you need to consider relative to questions that we have raised with you. To take away from you the ability to deliberate in what is an appropriate fashion, so that those responses will not just address our recommendations, but will allow you to continue doing what you're doing to address the needs of Durham. So having said that, you have received questions from the task force, and as was said earlier by our coach Sherry Lane, we recognize that it would be unfair for us to press you to too great an extent on detail. If it sounds as if we are pressuring you a little bit, it is because we are, as you are, interested in looking at what we can do now and defining what best can be done later. But our desire is to do more than we are currently doing. So we welcome your thoughts and your feedback. I trust that you all have had a chance to look at the questions. In responding, our objective is not to sacrifice the quality of your response for a speedy response. Take that time that you need, but recognize that there's a desire of eagerness for us to benefit from the feedback that you can give. But if you can take a moment, look at those questions, and the first one that I will pose on behalf of the task force has to do with the report that was made by Howie Meckinger just a moment ago in terms of responding, for example, to the housing crisis. We know that there are things that you all are doing, but are there any comments which you all in general would like to give in terms of questions that have resonated with you all most? We welcome that feedback, but please know that we want to follow this up with you all again, hopefully at a time that we can determine following this presentation. But any feedback from you all on questions which have been presented?
Well, thank you. I first just want to thank all of you. I can say with all sincerity, I've sat through many presentations over the past 8 years, and I think I have found your presentation to be the most powerful. And there was no PowerPoint. And, we just sometimes forget that, just talking and hearing people's words is so powerful. And each of you, every single one of you, the words that you have shared with us tonight have been so moving and so powerful. And I just want to express my gratitude to all of you. And the report, I mean, we were fortunate that this is kind of our, we had a very short presentation a few weeks ago, which was fantastic. Really gave us an overview. All of us read through the report then, but then with you all coming tonight, and you are the ones who did the work. You've done this incredible work. Is such an opportunity for all of us, and then to then read the report again in detail. And I know everybody in our board has taken the time to do that. But also just to say that the report is one of the most readable reports I've ever read. It really is. And we've all read reports all the time. But just the way that you all have written it, it's so thoughtful. It's so rich. The glossary, yes, is amazing.
I always give the plug for the glossary, Wendy.
To me, it feels like it's going to be like a living document. It feels like something that we can just keep going back to, and that people will really be able to read and relate to. And so I just want to just start out by saying thank you. I know other people want to speak, but I also, related to your question, Mr. Tabron, the first thing that I would like to do, actually, after commissioners can speak for a minute, is actually I want to bring into the conversation our racial equity officer, Quaylee Rashid Henry, and to really give her a chance to respond because she's our expert. We're so excited to have brought her in and to have her. She has her expertise. She's got a huge background in public health, but I want us to be able to give her a chance to really respond to, in general, the questions, and also share with the whole community and with all of you the work that she's been leading since she's here.
Wendy, if
Yeah.
I may, I just have some closing remarks, and then if that's
Yes.
all right with you, then we can, and then if you
Yeah.
would like to jump in, that would be great. Thanks.
Okay. I want to give the rest of my board a chance to speak as well, too.
Absolutely. Yes.
Do you want to make your closing?
How about I'll make the closing remarks, and then we can go from there. Does that sound good?
Sounds
Okay.
good.
Okay, great. I really appreciate that, Wendy, and I appreciate you saying how readable it was. That was very intentional to make it as broadly appealing as we could. And I just want to start out by saying, I was voting a couple of weeks ago. I was standing behind my oldest son, who is now able to vote, and I was feeling some kind of emotional that day, because I kept thinking, like, what kind of world are we building for him? What kind of world are we building for our children? What kind of world are we, because we're not leaving it to them, we're building it. And so, in that spirit, I want to talk very briefly about how I come to the table as a white woman in doing racial equity work, from my own experiences as a white woman, who understands that white women have actually benefited the most from hundreds of years of American affirmative action. And if that sounds weird or doesn't sound right to you or makes you feel some kind of way, I would love to have a conversation. But that's just to say where I'm coming from. And I think it's important to situate ourselves in this work. And I would ask that if anyone here has not taken racial equity training or can continue it, to please do that, because then those words will make more sense. But I'm always here and open to conversation. In the report, you'll find a lot of references to making sure that we have more transparency in process, more transparency with one another, more transparency between our elected leaders and the people of Durham. And that's a really intentional piece of the report, too. And particularly ensuring that people are close to the decision making. We've said that a couple of times tonight, and that's still the same. And hearing the sheriff's office saying the same thing, like their policies, their procedures, the transparency is so critical right now. And there are people in our city who are in pain, who are suffering, who are deeply hurt by a lot of what's happening around our country and in our city. And we've seen the results of that, unfortunately, the fallout in terms of violence and unrest in our own city, and just honestly, people feeling very hurt and disconnected. So we wanted to just bring up those processes and procedures, and we were really concerned when we read about the independent report that indicated that the commission was somehow dysfunctional. We found that we were concerned as we were writing, we had just delivered the report, and we wanted to let you all know that we're here. We're here, and there are a lot of reasons, I think, why that report said the word dysfunctional. I don't know, more than that. We know that there are a lot of details to the racial incident that has happened with commissioners that are unable to be revealed, and there are certainly lots of details that we don't need to know. But we are here to request that the commission make a statement that this experience of racial discrimination will be addressed, that it will be addressed meaningfully, and if possible, to please engage the community and the public around this issue. And again, we heard the police say how important it is for our policies and procedures to be aligned with where we are today, because we are in the middle of it today. And so we ask that as the task force, please, that you begin some dialogue, that there is a public statement, that it will be meaningfully addressed, because that racial equity work that we're all talking about tonight and wanting to be part of it and wanting to do it and investing money and time and resources, it's all built on trust. It's all built on trust. And until we see each other in one another, that trust is not there. We need to move from tolerate to celebrate. We can't just be well-intentioned or say that we are not racist or that we are doing our best. We have to do more. And this, again, urgent and loving call to action is a request for a commitment to sustained, active, anti-racist work for everybody. And you'll see also in the report, as I mentioned in the intro, this is the work of everyone. It's not just on the commissioners, it's not just on the city, it's not just on the Board of Education, it is in every single one of our interests to do this work because we will be better. And we want to make that city that we aspire to be together. So we are not here to poke anybody in the eye. We are here, though, to say we cannot do business as usual, that the time is now to really invest in engaging that community, hearing from people from across Durham, and engaging in that community healing, because we don't heal, we are in trouble. And that is something that we can all do. And that's the world we want to create for our kids. So I want to say thank you again, and we truly do mean these recommendations as an urgent and loving call, and that we are here. And please reach out at any time. You know where to find us, and we're not going anywhere. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen, and I really appreciate that message and that loving call to action in the spirit of love and healing. And I hear you, and I really welcome the invitation for us to work together on that in partnership and to do that in community with you all and with others. Other commissioners may have comments. I will just share that as the board chair, I have a responsibility in leading the board through our work and also our challenges, and that transparency is an important aspect of governing. So I'd like to share some of the steps I've been taking and will continue to take in regards to this matter. After the reports came out, I reached out to our county attorney and our senior assistant county attorney to collaborate with our board in identifying next steps and expertise as we repair and rebuild our working relationships. Our attorneys have proposed that our board and county manager attend racial equity trainings and receive support and training to improve manager-board relations and collaboration. And our attorneys have recommended that because these steps deserve adequate time, commitment, and attention, that we should wait until the new board has convened to begin this process. As I also want to just address another issue that we have received some emails about today, and I want to say that I thank you for the people of our community asking about community involvement in this issue. And over the past 9 months, I have worked closely with and sought input from our county attorneys. And from those discussions, it is my understanding that since this matter involves personnel issues, we are very limited in some of the things that we can say, and that in order to avoid unintentionally violating any personnel laws, the county itself cannot host a community discussion on details of this matter. And I do want to say that I don't recall personally ever making a promise to host a community conversation, and I apologize deeply for any communication individually about that. I also just want to say that as board chair, it's important for me to listen humbly and to create space for county staff if they want to share about the impacts of my actions in leading the board through this challenge. And I have begun to reach out to staff, and I will continue that process. And that I believe that deep listening through conflict is a priority for our board as a whole. And lastly, I want to say I truly thank you for all holding me accountable for in my leadership as board chair. I'm thankful for you all holding me accountable. And my aim is to support our county team in building trust and repairing harm as we work together to respond to the pandemic's disparate impact on communities of color and working class communities. And as we work together to fight back against the continued rise of white supremacy throughout our country. And I want to again thank you all the task force members, for all of your work in dismantling inequities at all levels. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share that. And I know I just would like to allow other commissioners an opportunity to speak.
Are you,
Commissioner
Madam Chair, are you,
I'm sorry.
would you like Quilly to speak first?
Whatever is the pleasure of the board. So I saw Commissioner Reckow lift her hand up, so I just don't want to ignore her. Did you want to say something?
I'll defer to Quilly at this point.
Okay. So Quayle.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, Quayle. Thank you so much for being with us here tonight.
Thank you for having me. It doesn't look like my camera is working, but I am here and I hope that you can hear me okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, wonderful. I very much appreciate the presentation tonight from the Racial Equity Task Force members. I absolutely love and appreciate the title, the urgent and loving call to action. And I think that that speaks to the urgency in which you shared the different recommendations as highlighted by the subcommittee members, and also the need for us to be accountable to racial equity as we think about addressing the inequities and restoring and repairing some of the harms that have occurred amongst Black, Indigenous, and people of color. I'm very excited about this work. My own personal and professional commitment to this work stems from an interest that I've had for a very long time in bridging generational conflict and ensuring that we have a way in which to talk to one another. We have a way in which to relate to one another. And I think about the young people in my family, my children, my grandchild, and I think about the older members of my family and my desire to learn more at any and every turn, my family history, my community history. And I've just been really thrilled about moving to Durham 8 years ago and learning about my new community and being immersed in a family, in a community here that is so extended in deep breadth and depth of racial equity, justice, and justice champions. And so I'm appreciative for my role, and I'm excited about moving the work of racial equity ahead in Durham. Since I started, so I'm almost 6 years into my role, I've been working really hard to help establish a collective vision at the county for racial equity, and not just doing it in a vacuum. So again, I have my own thoughts and beliefs and ideas as a woman of color, but I know that I can't be the sole and the lone voice pushing for racial equity. And that's again why I'm so excited to listen to tonight's presentation and be a part of this movement to ensure that we really do have accountability in moving our work ahead. So that whole notion of being in partnership and being in collaboration with others is my leadership style, if you will. And I've been working really hard to kind of listen to the voices of the people here at the county, people, staff at all levels within and across departments, to just get a sense and feel of what they understand about racial equity, what would they desire out of having a racial equity officer, and where should we focus? You know, there are a number of inequities that have been highlighted here tonight, and the county provides such vast services through all of the different departments that we have. But how are we going to prioritize that? Where do we begin? And wanting to best understand how to establish that collective vision with my colleagues has been an early goal that I set out to do. And I've been able to do that with the support of the county's membership to the Government Alliance on Race and Equity. I've been able to do that with the leadership of county managers, the county manager and the general managers, excuse me. And we launched early on back in June a racial equity employee survey to just get a sense of what employees' level of understanding on racial equity is, how many have experienced racial equity training, for example, how many departments have a racial equity plan. And then along with that, did some racial equity visioning sessions. So an opportunity to really listen closely to people to get a good sense and an understanding of how they were conceptualizing racial equity and how we should move our work ahead. And so all of that work is coming to completion. We're finalizing it, and I'm really excited about translating that back out to the community and helping our stakeholders get a better understanding of where the county is at, just what is our baseline on racial equity. So the timing is great. Again, we're not starting from scratch. There's already so much great work that's been happening throughout the community. We have an awesome task force report that represents over 18 months engagement on thinking through these issues. And I think we're in a great position to build on that. The other nice thing about our work that I want to mention to everyone on the call is that we are really working hard to develop our capacity in order to be able to use racial equity tools. So oftentimes what happens is that people think that training will solve our problem, and this is not a problem that we can train our way out of. And we want people to understand that in as much as racial equity is a goal, it is also an action verb. It is something that we do. It is how we be. And in order for us to really get a grasp on what that looks like, Gary's been providing a lot of information and guidance, best practice coaching, if you will, and sharing with us what other jurisdictions have done in terms of applying the racial equity tools, which essentially means that we have a way to help monitor and set for ourselves what are we going to use in order to guide decision making. And so all of that is going to feed into our overarching racial equity action plan. And this is a way for us to position this work so that it is long-term and that it reaches beyond just me and what I'm able to do as one lone person, but helps us to develop capacity and establish an infrastructure for this work. And we definitely need more champions, right? So that is my goal, to just make sure that this work lives beyond just me and it's not just a representation of what I think needs to happen. So there's several goals. I went all around the road to just say that there are several goals within the county that align with the racial equity task force agenda and the recommendations of each of the subcommittees. And I'm really excited about where we go next. And I am here. I hope members of the community, members of the racial equity task force community know how to find me. If not, I want to make sure that that happens. And I want to be in relationship with you. I want to work on building the bridge and making sure that we on the county side, Durham County government side, can be accountable in the ways in which make sense for us moving forward. So I'll stop there and just really appreciate you allowing me to share a few words, and really appreciate the presentation this evening.
Thank you, Quayle, and we're just so, again, grateful to have you as a part of our team, and I'm just so excited about the work that you are leading for change on the inside out, so that we can meet some of the challenges that we've heard tonight.
Thank you.
So thank you. Other commissioners just want to give, and then, task force members, you may have even follow-up questions for Quayle. So I know we're probably gone over time now, but I just want to give other board members a chance to speak as well. Commissioner Recka.
Well, thank you, Quayle. It's so good. She will be coming to a DART meeting, our ACES task force meeting, December 1, because we want to get her great expertise and experience to look at adverse childhood experiences and trauma with a racial equity lens. And she's just so terrific that we were grateful to get on her calendar and have her come to that task force meeting. I want to thank you all, but I want to give a special shout out to Judge Elaine O'Neill. It is so good to see you. I haven't seen you in several years.
Good
And
to see you too, Ella.
yeah, we worked together on justice issues and trying to get more money from the state for the court system and on and on. So great to see you. And also to see you, James. We go way, way back. Good to see you. I just sat here, as the chair said, and totally enjoyed your presentations. I mean, you really were speaking truth, and it's important for us to hear the results of your task force work. The issues that you raised really resonate, because I think this pandemic, if anything, has shown the inequalities in our community, and that is absolutely essential that they be addressed. And Howard, starting out with his presentation on housing, was just the case in point. So your words resonated and need to be followed up on. No ifs, ands, or buts. I would just say that. And I also want to say that I read the really long version of your report, which I found on the city website. And I was struck, and I have a question about it, I was struck by the subcommittees putting together these long lists of data needs. But I would imagine that you, as a volunteer task force, did not have the time to collect all that data. My question is, do you view that data to be important to the work ahead as we work together as a community to fashion solutions to the issues that you were raising?
Yeah, I can answer, Ellen. Absolutely. And you know, there's a saying, you can't fix what you don't measure. And I believe we quoted in the report. So, and that can mean lots of different things. I'm an anthropologist, so for me, data is qualitative. It's stories, deep listening, deep engagement, participating in people's lives, but then there's also the numerical data. And so we need both. We need both qualitative data and quantitative data. We know that it's a big budget item. We know that, unfortunately, we tend to outsource a lot of that stuff. We have a lot of vendors who live outside the city who then don't live in the city. We don't keep the money in the city. So we are asking, you'll see in the report, we're asking that for some of that data collection, particularly qualitative stuff, that we use community members as consultants, and we pay them. And so we are practicing equity as we are collecting that data and trying to address the wealth gap. So that absolutely, Ellen, I'm glad you picked up on that. We have many data needs, but there are groups in Durham. We have DataWorks, who does a lot of quantitative stuff, but there's also a lot of ways we can do qualitative data by engaging the community and actually, and that would be really, really integral to moving forward. I don't know if anybody else wants to jump in.
Well, I was going to say the other source that you might want to look at are our local universities, because at the last city county committee meeting, I guess it was the mayor brought a couple of academics who have been looking at the whole issue of relative appreciation of housing in different neighborhoods in Durham. And the fact is that Black neighborhoods did not experience the appreciation that white neighborhoods did over the past 50 years or so. and so I say that to say that you may be able to obtain some pro bono or low cost research work by using expertise of our students at NCCU, at Duke, even at UNC, who may be very interested. The two presenters at City County Committee, I can't remember their names right now, were very proud because some of their work, they said, is path-breaking. I asked them a couple of questions when they were done, and they said they're actually charting new territory. So that would be the kind of resource you may want to look at for expanding and gathering that data that was so impressive in terms of listing out the incredible needs that you have in terms of, as you say, measuring how things proceed going forward. But again, I support the work, and I look forward. I won't be on the board, but as a citizen of Durham, I look forward to watching eagerly as you advance your work in the future.
Thank you, Ellen. We'll put you to work on one of those future subcommittees from the Racial Equity Commission. Commissioner Howerton.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I want to thank the Racial Equity Task Force, all the members, for this presentation. I know the community partners stand in solidarity with the great work that this task force has done over the last couple of years. When a couple of weeks ago, when the 529 citizens approached me with the signed petitions to ask me to have our board listen to and hear their call for us to support the Racial Equity Commission, I was touched and moved that they had spearheaded and pushing for us to take some action here. And what you hear my voice is, this touches me. When we talk about people have been hurt, there's a lot of pain. There's a lot of pain in this community. There's a lot of pain around this conversation. And when we ignore it, it compounds the pain. We talk about adverse trauma. Our children are experiencing adverse trauma. And we'll see the results of it as they get older if we don't stop the bleeding. There is work to be done. And what I don't want us to do as the board right now is I don't want us to forget that we have 2 new commissioners coming on board. And we need to include them in this conversation, because whatever we decide to do, then they will be a part of the action to make it happen. So I want to keep that in mind. And we have to build back trust. Howard, when you talked a minute ago about, we all know the housing crisis is upon us, but your words, racial equity, as Quilly talked about, is a conversation that mostly people check the box. And this is not a check in the box conversation. As the team talked about, this is a conversation. This is a loving call to action to save our children. And if that is not enough to spearhead us and have us change our behaviors, we don't need to be elected officials. We don't need to be in leadership. And you have to forgive me. This is a heavy conversation here for me. I'm excited about the racial equity officer who is doing a phenomenal job, and the great depth of her experience. And we also have Joanne Pierce, who has worked in a couple of states on racial equity. She's a great opportunity to be a part of this. We're doing a lot of work, but to dig deeper, putting Band-Aids on stuff, we keep bleeding. So we have the resources and the talent to help us to dig deeper, to really have make something happen here in Durham. And people across the country are looking at Durham. When I was approached by a journalist out of DC, my first question was, why are you calling me? How did my name come up in this conversation? And the article is out there. They want to know what Durham is doing. What is Durham going to do? So I know the city is leading a new wellness and safety task force. So perhaps the county is in the position to lead the Racial Equity Commission. I look forward to the board's further engagement in this conversation, and as we personally champion putting a framework around all of the deep systematic racism that we need to unearth. Because I don't see it making a difference if we're not willing to dig deep with the systemic racism. Thank you.
So I thank you for that, Commissioner Howard. I want to just build on the question of trust, because when we went around to talk to people in the communities, that was the major thing. And people basically weren't willing to even hear some of the stuff we said, because the level of trust was so deep. They saw us as agents of the regular political people.
Mm-hmm.
And this is fundamental to the idea of, and you only rebuild trust by action that people connect to. So I just want to, really thank you for that and reinforce the question of trust, because it's so fundamental.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Carter.
Thank you. I also want to express my thanks for this really powerful presentation tonight. And I also read the full report because it was indeed so readable, and just filled with good instruction for us all. I really appreciate especially the report's policy recommendations and recommendations for action going forward, which I support, including the formation of a racial equity commission that you all have asked us, and Black Agenda 919 have asked us to do.
And I really hope we'll use the tools that are in this report to strengthen our policy making. We can run every policy decision, through these tools, through a racial equity impact analysis. You've given us the tools to do that. And of course, we also have Quayle, to whom we can turn for guidance, and Joanne Pierce on this as well. But that would be one way to improve our policy-making process. I also thought your recommendations were just strongly relevant to some of the board's current goals, like our universal pre-K work and the work to build affordable housing, first time ever for the county to do that, and to subsidize housing, and and many, many more things, enhancing transit, trying to fully fund our public schools as much as we can. And so, I do think that there are two policy actions that could have a tremendous impact on racial equity in the wealth arena. And I hope that we'll revisit these in December. And those are the $15 an hour per hour for DPS classified staff, and also the tax assistance grant. So I look forward to us continuing to engage around those potential policies. And I feel a really strong alignment with the 6 interrelated areas that you laid out. You all have just done a great job, and I truly appreciate all the time and dedication I know that went into it, and look forward to working with you, and appreciate, Karen, your invitation to remember that you're here and to reach out. I would really like to do that, and hope we can build sustainable, I think you all said it, sustainable strategies, creative strategies, and structures to continue your work. If I could, I would like to respond a minute to the question that you all sent us and have hinted at tonight about the Coleman report. And I'd like to share some reflections on my own responses to the issues thus far, and how I plan to move going forward. During this year, I've continued to reflect on race and reconciliation, both broadly and in the context of the investigation report. And honestly, I've struggled with how best to respond to the manager's account of racial bias in my interactions with him and county staff. I've tried to make statements along the way that both acknowledge the manager's account and point out what I considered inaccuracies or mischaracterizations of our interactions related to disagreements about public policy. Looking back, I recognize that my defensive reaction perpetuated a familiar defensive response by a white person, especially in the midst of ongoing anti-Black violence in this country. And I'm truly sorry for this. And I want to tell you what I plan to do going forward to hopefully repair and to rebuild. So on a personal level, I will respond in the future first and foremost by listening, reflecting deeply. It's my lifelong responsibility as a white person to continually examine my actions as I work across difference, and to be proactive in confronting and undoing racism in its various forms. I will deepen my own anti-racist efforts, which include making anti-racist education a regular practice, listening and learning from community members, and seeking to build trust while working across difference. And as your county commissioner, I will continue to advocate for anti-racist, pro-working class policies that improve the lives of people of color and push back against systems that have benefited white people, have advantaged white people and wealthy people. And in the workplace, it's so important to me to foster a healthy relationship between the board and our dedicated county staff members. And based on the investigation report, I recognize that some county staff, in addition to the county manager, have felt some of my actions were racially biased. And I am sincerely sorry for that as well. Chair Jacobs shared how she and how the board are going to prioritize deep listening. And as a practice of deep listening, I have started to reach out to county staff and intend to continue to do that, to ask if they would like to share further with me about the impact of my actions, just so I can listen and hear that better. And but overall, I really do believe that we're united in working against the far right's harmful actions and policies at the state and federal level. And I know that we want to build a Durham that supports everyone, and especially improves the lives of people of color and working people. And towards that end, I'm committed to my personal efforts, my personal growth, and also toward cultivating work relationships that are based on trust and respect. And I'm committed to working together with you all to advance what I think is our shared vision of a Durham for all, and a Durham where you cannot predict life outcomes by one's race, by one's zip code. Thank you so much for letting me take the time to make those remarks.
Thank you, Commissioner Carter. And I don't want to leave out Commissioner Hill in case you wanted to share any comments tonight.
And that was powerful. Thank you. I want to thank the task force for their report, and I look forward to seeing the progress that we make over the next few months with the new board. So thank you.
Thank you. And I can say to all of you task force members with us tonight, to see what you have even helped us do tonight by your presence. Very grateful to all of you. And knowing that you, because I've had this conversation with Vanessa, knowing that you all are volunteers, I have felt very guilty every time we keep saying, well, we're going to keep working with you. So not that we know that you're volunteers and that you finished your work, but we will be grateful for whatever role that you all choose to play in all of our lives, and with us as a board and with the county moving forward. So thank you. And again, we look forward to next steps when the new board does come on, to continue the conversation and continue working together on this vision and action. So again, thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you all
everyone.
so
Good night.
much.
Hey.
That was good.
Thank you. So the next item on our agenda is the boards and commission appointments. And I will turn that over to you, Madam Clerk, and also Mr. County Attorney.
Madam Chair, don't we have the Public Health Director?
Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry. Rod. Sorry about that, Rod.
Still here, Madam Chair.
Okay, Rod. We cannot forget you, Rod.
No
Of
problem
course.
at all.
Our awesome, fearless leader through COVID-19, Rod Jenkins, our incredible public health director. Thank you, Rod.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, good evening to you, Madam Chair, and the members of the Board of County Commissioners. As I've always done prior to my conversations, I just start my remarks by saying thank you to you all for your support during this global pandemic. It's not been easy. It continues to be challenging. However, I'm so grateful for the staff and the community partners and everybody who's really kind of pitched in and hunkered down and helped us during this global pandemic. Durham is vibrant. Durham will recover. We'll continue to do what we always do, which is survive and thrive. So I start off my report by reflecting on the Vulnerable Populations Work Group of the Recovery and Renewal Task Force. Last Tuesday, we met, and we tend to just talk about how those different populations have been impacted, and we kind of get into the technical, granular details of testing and contact tracing and how things going. And we were very pleased with how things were going. Katie Galbraith from Duke Regional, she leads that effort along with Bill Harewood with Lincoln Community Health Center. And it's almost as if we were giving each other's pats on the back, and I promise I'll be real brief. And it was one of our members who just kind of gave us a reality check. It's like, what are you patting yourselves on the back for? You know, there's still people out there who are not doing what they're supposed to do. And until we can control that, the behaviors is what that person said. We're not going to be, you know, we're going to see spikes and rise in cases and all that. And that person was so correct. So I start my comments by just simply saying to the Durham community that yes, we're still in a very fragile state. We're doing well. However, behaviors are still key to us staying in this great position in our efforts to mitigate community spread, to reduce COVID-19 infections. It's so important, ladies and gentlemen, for us not to give in to COVID fatigue. And we hear it in the national media, we hear it locally, how everyone is tired of COVID. And I think everyone under the sound of my voice is tired of COVID. But we must continue to practice the 3 W's. We must continue to stay vigilant. We must continue to stay safe. And that all boils down to behavior. We have to practice the right behavior. And we've been hearing reports, you know, in Durham about parties and large gatherings and things of that nature. That's simply unacceptable during a global pandemic. So I'm not here to chastise anyone. I'm just here as your public health director to remind you that we are still in a global pandemic in which there is no cure as of yet. The vaccines are supposed to be on the way next week, Tuesday. However, it's not. And it's just important for us to really stay the course. And with that, I'll get into the numbers. Currently, we sit at 407 active cases, 8,408 inactive or discharged, or people who have recovered and beat COVID. Unfortunately, since the last time I talked to you all, there have been 4 deaths, which brings us to 102 deaths due to COVID. And as always, our thoughts and prayers are with the families, those who've lost loved ones due to COVID-19. It is a stark reminder, having crossed the century mark here in Durham, that COVID-19 is a real and present danger, and it's still able to make people pass away. So that's a nice reminder. So our total since the beginning of the pandemic is 8,922 cases of COVID. As mentioned last time I met, we have increased. Our 7-day moving average as of last week was 42. This is rather stable because the average was 44 last week, and the increase, which is an increase from 34 2 weeks ago. So suffice to say, it is increasing. But it's important that I say to Durham, I pay close attention. I pay very close attention to our neighbors and like-sized counties. And it's important that I also say to you, commissioners, that we're doing well in terms of us. When you think about other counties like-size, they're seeing enormous spike. Case in point, at one point in time, Guilford and Forsyth County, we were neck and neck in terms of total cases. Guilford has shot past us. Forsyth is now on our tail. So what does that tell me as your public health director? It tells me that the things that we're doing here in Durham are continuing to work, but it all boils down to behavior. And we need folks to really continue to stay the course. In terms of work, race, and ethnicity, which we are committed to providing because we want to keep the playing field level and we want everyone to understand how COVID affects them. Our Hispanic or Latinx population continues to be overrepresented, representing 38.35% of all cases. We're still doing much better than how we were, where we were last summer, but we continue to have work to do. We continue to work with our healthcare coalition. Our Black or African American are underrepresented at this time with 28.89% of all cases, and our white Durhamites continue to be underrepresented at 27.43% of all of our cases. We are continuing to see long-term care facilities, nursing care facilities have outbreaks. And we continue to work with the state and local administrators to try to contain them. I will say that it takes time because those are congregate living facilities, but locally it seems as if we're revisiting those woes from early spring. As you can recall, we started off with travelers, then we started to long-term care facilities, and then it went to our Latinx population. And now it seems to be coming back to nursing care facilities. So we do have a long-term care facility strike team that is a part of our emergency operations center that is working tirelessly. But it's important that I report to you all that that does continue to be a concern as far as COVID-19 cases. In terms of positive lab reports that are reported electronically, our positive percentage rate as of today is 5.6%. For the prior week is 4.8%. We pay close attention to Duke's model. We're thankful for their partnership. North Carolina's infection per Duke was 6%, and Durham's infections, they had it listed at around 3.5%. So again, it varies. We always want to keep it below 5%, but again, that's just telling because again, positive tests are increasing, and Durham's positive cases are increasing as well. So we're continuing to do all that we can to get that positive rate down. As far as school-age children, 18 years of age and younger, the positive percentage was 15.04% of all kids, or 117 total kids were infected by COVID as of last week. A few updates for you all. We have been successful in providing additional surge testing to the residents of Durham Housing Authority and the greater community. And the areas that we were able to provide testing includes McDougal Terrace, J.J. Henderson, 519 East Main Street, and Oxford Manor. We do have plans to provide testing to the Cornwallis units, and we've been working very closely with Anthony Scott and Ms. Danita Johnson to ensure that that happens. Plans are also underway to have drive-through COVID-19 testing in the vicinity of El Centro Hispano. So we are thankful for these partners and their patience because they waited quite a while for us to provide additional resources to them. But make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, we've been able to provide robust testing apparatus in Durham with anywhere from 7 to 8 CVS sites and a very busy Walgreens. And we continue to be thankful for that partnership. I'll continue on by just stating a few updates about our wraparound services provided by Duke University Health System. As of last week, as far as the numbers in Durham, there were 313 food boxes that were delivered, which equated to 948 meals. They did provide relief payments to 30 families or individuals. They provided transportation for 4 individuals. And then COVID-related supplies or COVID supply boxes were 107, and that's just in Durham. At this time, that concludes my presentation. More than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rod, as always, for your very thorough, detailed, thoughtful report. Could you just repeat what you just said? The relief payments went to how many families?
Yes, ma'am. There were 30 families that received relief payments.
Okay. And does it seem like that system is starting to function? Sounds like it better from the results. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
we've been working very closely with Michelle Lynn and Fred Johnson, who are spearheading it. The 8 community-based organizations that are providing the services includes CARE, which is CAARE, El Centro, Gang Free, La Familia, New Life Connection, Peach, Project Access of Durham County, Slice 365, and Durham Tri. And those individuals are the 8 community-based organizations that are operating in Durham, Vance, and Grant.
Fantastic. Well, it's great. They're working with community-rooted organizations. And also, I just want to commend you all for the sites at the Durham Housing Authority sites. That's fantastic. And the increase at long-term and nursing care facilities, do you see any correlation with the move to now allow people to have visitors? Do you think there's any correlation with that?
Not particularly, Madam Chair. It's not really attributed to, increased visitations. It's just COVID-19 is just a deadly respiratory pathogen, and once it hits one area, it becomes that much more difficult to have like a COVID infected wing and a positive. And, what I've learned through this entire pandemic is that the moment that a congregational setting has one, you can be assured that it's going to be multiple. And it takes so long for it to clear out. And unfortunately, as I mentioned before, the most recent deaths that we've had due to COVID have been individuals who've been hospitalized from nursing.
Thank you. Other commissioners have questions? Commissioner Carter.
I'm still unmuted. Rod, thank you so much. I continue to feel great admiration for all the work that's going on in Durham County to, keep our surge more modulated than with other large cities, just like you were describing. And I'm positive it's no accident. I really believe it's your leadership. It's the leadership of all of those who are on the Recovery and Renewal Task Force and the work coming out of those roundtables. It's really impressive and awing to witness it and to look at the numbers that just speak for themselves here. One quick question is, do you know if the health ambassadors have started their work in the community yet?
They have. They, particularly the health ambassadors that are assigned to our Latinx population, they are busy. They are doing a fantastic job. And they are definitely getting the resources to those people who are in need. We're continuing to work out some kinks with our food distribution, but nevertheless, food is still, as reported, is still getting to the families in need. But we're just trying to really hone and find a way to get it to those people who are in need quickly, because from the time they get the referral, there is a 72-hour window that it has to be done. And that's a long time for a family that's hungry.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Rod.
Well, thank you. And I take, you've heard this in the media a lot, as far as people taking responsibility. I'm just blessed to be a part of a great team. And I give all credit to the folks that are doing the real work, and that's the men and women of Durham Public.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rod, and thank you for the message, the sobering message, though, that we've got to stick with it. It's hard. People having COVID fatigue, but we've got to stand together and stand strong and support each other, and we'll get through it together. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so now we're on to our boards and commissions, and I'll look to our attorney, Lowell Seiler, to help us with this.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the Adult Oversight Committee, you can select one person, and you've selected Ali Gill. For the Board of Adjustment, you can select one person, and you selected Natalie Beauchesne. For the Durham County Women's Commission, you can select one person, and you selected Lucia Farrajon. For the Durham County Research and Production Services District Advisory Committee, you could select 8 individuals, and you selected all 8. Ginger Dozier, Tracy Howe, Greg Lubecki, Stephen Pearson, Stephanie Harris, Ostra Jewell, Benjamin Parker, and Tyson Strutzenberg. For the Farmland Preservation Advisory Committee, you could select 2 individuals, and you've selected Kenyon Browning and Nicole Connolly. That's the results of your voting tabulation.
Thank you so much, Attorney Seiler. And next, the board is requested to adjourn to closed session to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A3.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Reckow, seconded by Commissioner Howerton. And we will go with a voice vote, starting with Commissioner Carter.
Yes.
Commissioner Howerton.
Yes.
Commissioner Hill.
Yes.
Commissioner Reckow.
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so we are unanimously adjourned into closed session. Thank you, everyone who's been with us tonight, and hope you have a great rest of your evening. And we should all look for the link to the closed session. See you all soon.
Good night.
Good night. given direction to staff, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn. Sorry.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Carter.
Ken
Need a
Rackhow needs to second it.
Oh, I didn't realize I was muted. I'll second.
Okay, seconded by Commissioner Reckow. Voice vote starting with Commissioner Reckow.
Yes.
Commissioner Carter.
Yes.
And I'm a yes, so we are unanimously adjourned. Good night and thank you, everybody.